Section 7 of Tribal Custom in Anglo-Saxon Law. This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. Tribal Custom in Anglo-Saxon Law by Frederic Seebohm. Chapter 4, Tribal Custom of the Irish Tribes, Part 1. 1. The Eric Fine of the Brehon Laws. Returning now once more to the examination of tribal custom and the structure of tribal society in the case of tribes belonging to the Celtic group, it might be expected that Cymric customs would be likely most closely to accord with those of the Celtic tribes of Ireland, Brittany, and Gaul, but it must be remembered that the Cymric, whose customs are contained in the codes, whatever their original continental position may have been, are supposed to have come into Wales from the north, with Cunedda and his sons. The codes therefore probably represent the customs of the Cymry of ancient Cumbria north of the Solway Frith, rather than those of the Britons, whether Gwaddels or Cymry, dwelling in South Wales and more or less subject for generations to Roman rule. If the theory of the emigration from Wales and Cornwall into Brittany, as a consequence of the Saxon invasion, be correct, the Britons who emigrated into Brittany may never have shared the peculiar customs of the immigrants into Wales, following upon the conquest of Cunedda and his sons. They may have had more in common with the Gwaddelic tribes of South Wales than with the Cymric newcomers into Wales. These considerations may well prepare the way for the recognition of differences, as well as resemblances, between Cymric and Irish tribal custom. The system of payments for homicide amongst the ancient tribes of Ireland, as described in the Brehon laws, differed widely from that of the Cymric codes. In the first place, the Brehon laws describe no scale of Gallinus or Vergeld, directly varying with the social rank of the person killed. Gradations of rank there were indeed, and numerous enough, but there appears to have been only one Kirp Dira, or body fine, the same for all ranks, namely 7 kuhals, or female slaves, the equivalent of 21 cows. And when this Kirp Dira, or price of the body or life of a man, is further examined, it is found to consist of 2 parts. 1 kumhal of compensation, ethgen. 2, the 6 kumhals of the Kirp Dira proper. In the tract of every crime it is stated, if the man who is dead has a son, he takes the kumhal of compensation alone. If not alive, his father is to take it. If not alive, his brother. If he be not alive, the nearest person to him is to take it. And then the Kirp Dira is divided. 3 kumhals to the son and the father, 1 kumhal to the brother, 1 kumhal to the son and father, sick, 1 to the Gelfinna from the lowest to the uppermost man, so making up the 6 kumhals of the Kirp Dira. And in the Book of Echo, page 537, are these lines. 3 Eric fines are counselled. 1. There is paid full compensation. 2. And fair honest Kirp Dira. 3. An honor price is paid. Besides this Kirp Dira, therefore, was the eneklan, honor price, or price of the face, i.e., payment for insult, and this was the payment, by no means confined to homicide, which varied according to rank. These 2 things, then, the Kirp Dira of 7 kumhals and the honor price, made up together, with in some cases exceptional additions, the Eric fine. Next, as to the persons liable for its payment. In the Chorus Besna, the following statement is made relating to homicide in cases where the homicide was one of necessity. The Eric fine is to be paid by the slave's kindred, fine, as they divide his property, crow. he, the slayer, shall pay a communal of restitution, ethgin, and as much as a son or a father of the 6 communals of the dira fini. As to crimes of non-necessity, he himself is to be given up for it, with his cattle and his land. If he is not enough to pay the eric, or is not to be caught, then it is to be paid by his son until his cattle and his land be spent on it, or failing him, by his father in the same number. Lastly, failing both the son and the father, it is to be paid by each nearest hearth, tella, to him until all they have is spent, or full payment of the crime is made up among them, so that, in the absence or in default of the murderer, at the date of this Brehon tract, his family and kindred were answerable for the whole of the eric in the case of wilful murder. The nearest hearths or fine, who bear the crimes of each kinsman of their stock, were, according to the censures, more. 1. Gel fine. 2. Derb fine. 3. Er fine. 4. Ind fine. I think Monsieur Dubois de Jouveville is probably right in explaining these 4 hearths or fines to be groups or grades of kindred. He divides them thus: the gel fine, father, son, grandson, brother; the derb fine, grandfather, paternal uncle, nephew, first cousin; the er fine, great-grandfather, great-uncle, great-nephew, second cousin; ind fine, great-great-grandfather, great-great-uncle, great-great-nephew, third cousin. Whether this interpretation of the Brehon scheme of the divisions of the Irish fine or kindred be correct in every detail, I shall not venture to give an opinion, further than to say that, viewed in the light of other tribal systems, it seems to me to be nearer the mark than the various other attempts to make illegible what, after all, are very obscure passages in the Brehon laws. The 17 persons making up the 4 divisions of the fine or kindred must be taken, I think, as representing classes of relations, and not individuals. E.g., under the head first cousin must be included all first cousins, and so on throughout. So understood, the 4 hearths or groups of kindred liable for the eric would include the 16 grades nearest of kin to the criminal. He himself, or the chieftain, would form the 17th person on the list. The tract of every crime seems to confirm the view above taken. It states that the crimes of every criminal he himself was first liable. If he has absconded, it goes upon his chattels, living chattels or dead chattels. The liability falls next upon his father and his brother, but, according to the commentary, upon his son first, if he have one. There seems to be the Gelfini relations, or nearest hearth, and after them it falls, according to the text, upon his Derbfini relations, and, if they have absconded so that they cannot be caught, his crime goes upon his chief. But before it goes upon the chief, the Irfini and the other fines come in. According to the commentary, and the chief is said to be that of the 4 fines. The reason why the crime goes upon the Derbfini division and the Irfini division here goes before it goes upon the chief is because it is one chief over them, his chief, i.e., the chief of the 4 families. On the whole, therefore, according to whatever rules of kinship, a fine may have been divided into the 4 nearest fines or hearths. We can hardly be wrong in considering them, not as 4 artificial groups including in all 17 individuals, but as 4 family groups, arranged in the order in which liability for a kinsman crime was to be shared. The full liability for the eric would then, as in the Kimrick case, fall upon the 4 groups or hearths as a whole. But, again, as in the Kimrick case, the amount falling upon each of them was defined and divided among the individuals composing it. The same family division held good both as regards payment and receipt of eric. The general correspondence between the obligation to pay and the right to receive a share in fines is shown by another passage from the Senchus More. The feni charge the liability of each kinsman, cum fulges, upon the other in the same way as he obtained his eric fine and his inheritance. The penalties for any other crime than homicide fell in the first instance upon the criminal alone, and the person injured took the whole of the compensation for his injury. But it was not so in the case of homicide. It was not a matter for the individual alone. Both in payment and receipt it was, as with the Kemri, a joint interest of the kindred. The following passage makes this clear. What is the reason that it is upon himself alone every crime that a person commits goes, except killing, provided he has the means of paying it? Answer: because, though it be against him alone evil is done, except killing, it is to himself alone it shall be paid. Every killing, however, which he commits, it is not he alone that shall pay for it, though he has the means of paying for it, but it goes upon the family. Fine. And this is now the reason, because though it were himself or his son that had been killed, it is the whole family, fine, that would take the body, fine, corp dira, of either of them, and not his son or father. A still clearer indication of the solidarity of the family or kindred occurs in the book of Eckel. In regard to the right of the several members, according to relationship, to share in composition for a kinswoman abducted without their consent. If taken without her own consent, honor price was to be paid to herself, and also honor price was to be paid to her chiefs and her relations, according to the nature of their relationship to her. This presumably was for the breach of their protection, should death overtake her before she was restored. Kirkdira and honor price were to be paid to her family. In case of her consent it was the same, except she could claim no honor price for herself. So far, then, we have felt our way to the following conclusions. 1. That the eric for homicide in Ireland was shared by the family in grades of relationship elaborately fixed, but which it is not necessary to discuss further. 2. In cases of innocent homicide, the family, i.e., 4 nearest hearths or grades of kindred, shared the eric with the slayer, i.e., the slayer was only liable to pay a share of the eric. 3. In cases of intentional homicide, the goods of the murderer all had to go first, and only the remainder was thrown upon his kindred. But, except inter se, they were liable to the kindred of the slain for the whole of what the slayer could not pay. 4. The eric consisted of 2 parts, the kirk dira and the honor price. The kirk dira was 7 kumhols, one of which was for restitution, ethgin, the other 6 kumhols being the kirk dira proper. 5. As in other laws, there were sometimes additional payments for each breach of protection or privilege, etc. 2. The honor price, eneklan. It is necessary next to direct special attention to the honor price, eneklan. The question at once arises, whose honor price has to be paid? In the first place, according to a passage in the book of Eckel, it is the honor price of the slayer that had to be paid, i.e., the higher the rank of the slayer, the greater the payment to the kindred of the person slain. The passage alluded to occurs almost at the beginning of the book of Eckel. The heading, literally translated, is Fines are doubled by anger. Ferg. Then follows a long commentary in which the point seems to be limited to secret murder, and the doubling seems to be the result of the concealment. This is quite consistent with tribal feeling as shown in other laws. concealment of the slain person on the part of the murderer being considered a grave aggravation. The passage is as follows. Fines are doubled by anger. Ferg. The double of his own honor price is due of each and every person, whether native freeman, stranger, foreigner, dearman, or looker-on, for the crime of secret murder. And then the commentary goes on to say that if it was the same person who killed and concealed, a fine of 7 kumhals and full honor price for the concealing, and 7 kumhals and full honor price for the killing, which is twice 7 kumhals in double honor price upon a native freeman for secret murder. Obviously, the honor price in both cases is that of the murderer, for a little further on is a statement that the same fine is upon a native freeman for looking on at the killing of a native freeman, or a stranger, or a foreigner, or a demon. But besides this honor price of the criminal, as we have seen, are the payments that apparently to be made to the relatives of the slain, for breach of their protection or for injury sustained, and these were measured by the honor price of the recipients and not by that of the criminal. It is not quite clearly stated that these payments were part of the eric, but we may suppose that they were in a sense a buying off of the right of feud, and accepted in lieu of the right of joining in the avengement of the crime and in the feud, for which the eric was the composition. A passage in the Book of Echo incidentally seems to show that the son of a person slain could choose whether to claim honor price on the scale of his own social rank, according to right of property, or the status of his father or grandfather, or that of the chieftain under whose protection he lived. If, having been given his choice of taking honor price in right of property, or honor price in right of his father and his grandfather, he made choice of honor price in right of his property, and decay came upon his property so that he has left but the kingship of the 3 handles, the handle of his flail, the handle of his hatchet, and the handle of his wood axe. He is then entitled to but 1 scripal, for his worthiness if he be worthy, and if he not be worthy he is entitled to nothing, unless children have been born to him afterwards, which he had not before on the day of making his choice, and if they have been born he has honor price in right of them. The passage goes on to mention the case of his having made choice to have the honor price in right of his relations or in right of his chief. In the Sensus More, without direct mention of the case of homicide, is the following statement. The honor price is 4-fold. Full honor price is due to 1 for his father, half honor price for his father's brother, 1/3 honor price for his son or his daughter, 1/4 honor price for his grandson. On the whole, it may be gathered from the Brehon tracts that, while the curp deer or body fine was a fixed amount, the eric of full payment was a complex involving, besides the curp deer, the honor price of the slayer according to his rank, and also payments to the relations of the slain, regulated by their honor price and rank, and nearness of relationship to the slain person, by way of reparation for the insult or injury involved, or for breach of their protection, etc. In order to judge how much these payments of honor price added to the eric, we must seek to learn something of the character of the various grades and ranks, and the amount of the honor price of each. End of section 7.